कुंज विहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा, कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा। जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम, कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय, गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह, प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस इसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक आचार्य से द होल वर्ल्ड श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text number 24. Tad ashma saram hridayam batedam, tad ashma saram hridayam batedam. तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं यद् गृह्यमानैः हरिनाम ध्येयैः यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयैः न विक्रियेत अथ यदा विकारो न विक्रियेतथा यदा विकारो न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो नेत्रे जलं गात्र रुहेषु हर्षः नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयैः न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं
गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयैः
यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयैः
न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः
तदश्मसारं हृदयं वदेदं
तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं
यद्गृह्यमानेर्हरिनामधेये
यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयैः
न विक्रियेधात यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षा
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः
तदस्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं
तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं
यद्गृह्यमान् अर्हेनामधेया
यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयैः
न विक्रियेतदा यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो
नेत्रे जलगात्ररुहुष हर्षः
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः that Ashmasaram is still framed, Hridayam, heart, Bata idam, certainly that, Yat, which, Grihyamanaihi, in spite of chanting, Harinama, the holy name of the Lord, Dheyaihi, by the concentration of the mind, Na does not vikriyeta change atha thus yada when vikaraha reaction netre in the eyes jalam tears gatraruheshu at the pores harshaha eruptions of ecstasy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Certainly that heart is steel framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. We should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in His universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God through the material manifestations of His energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as the Super Soul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior, that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal supersoul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the 2nd chapter, but in the 3rd chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship or pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord as his subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi Bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands and the legs, as explained herein before, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel-framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties, and if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead. If the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to the offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on the end. The bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, falling in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, Prakrita Sahajiyas, but the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above-mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated, and for this reason, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms, yet if they do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. When Lord Chaitanya met Sri Ramanandaraya of Kavaur on the banks of the Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms, but because of the presence of some non-devotee brahmanas who were attendants of the Raya, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for circumstantial reasons. Therefore, real steady bhava is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, shanti, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, avyartha kalatvam, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, namagane sada ruchi, attraction for living in the land of the Lord, pritistad vasatistale, complete detachment from material happiness, virakti, and pridelessness, mana shunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental state of glorifying the Lord. And the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires, etc., as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, or unconsciousness, etc., is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return path home, back to Godhead, will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee. Please repeat this translation. Certainly that heart is steel framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. Om Ajnanatmirandasya Jnananjanashalakayat Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam is titled Pure Devotional Service, and the last but one verse of this chapter is this one. Tadashmasaram hridayam batedam yadgrihyamaner harinamadeyehi navakriye tatha yada vikaro netre jalam gatraruheshu harshaha. So after having described pure devotional service in this full chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam is giving a disclaimer. Generally you have disclaimers, no? If this doesn't work, then please don't blame us. So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving a disclaimer here that hridayam, that heart, that person's heart, hridayam, is ashmasaram, it is steel framed. Whose heart is steel framed? Whose heart is ashmasaram? Yet that grihyamanehi, in spite of chanting what? The holy name of the Lord. Grihyamanehi harinama, in spite of chanting the holy name of the Lord, that heart, hridayam, is ashmasaram, it is steel framed. If Dheyehi, even if it is done with the concentration of the mind, even if all these things a person does, and vikriyeta, vikara means change, vikriyeta, if there is no change in the heart, what kind of change? So three things Bhagavatam is mentioning. One, netre jalam, if there are no tears in the eyes, then gatra ruheshu, if there is no eruption of ecstasy, and if the hairs do not stand on end, then Bhagavatam is saying such a person's heart is ashmasaram, it is steel frame. So Bhagavatam is very clear. Nobody should come and accuse Srimad Bhagavatam tomorrow. You told this chapter, entire chapter is pure devotional service, and if you perform pure devotional service, you will attain love of Krishna. All these big hopes Bhagavatam has given. Now somebody may say, I have been chanting for so many years, I have been doing devotional for so many years, service for so many years. Nothing has happened. No, I am not seeing any change. Every other day the Prabhu calls and tells me, you continue to chant, you continue to read, you continue to do all this devotional service. But I am not seeing any change. So Bhagavatam is giving a disclaimer If any such change is not happening, despite years of executing devotional service and chanting Harinama, then Bhagavatam says, your heart is still framed. Don't blame the Srimad Bhagavatam. Please blame yourself. Don't blame the Bhagavatam, don't blame the previous Acharyas, don't blame the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, don't blame anything else. This is how Bhagavatam is giving a disclaimer. Why? So that somebody should not lose faith in the process of devotional service. Somebody should not lose faith in the process of devotional service. Because if somebody loses faith in the process of devotional service, then who is the loser? The person who has lost faith is the loser. Bhagavatam is not the loser. Vyasadeva is not the loser. The previous acharyas are not the losers because they have already attained in the position of ecstasy. They have nothing to lose. So therefore, out of compassion, Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse is made. Tad ashma saram. Anybody whose heart does not transform, then after chanting the name of the Lord, particularly what kind of transformation? That transformation also is vividly described in the form of three things. Netre jalam, there are no tears in the eyes, and the hairs of the body are not standing, and there is no ecstasy. These three things are not happening. In such a person's heart is ashmasaram, steel frame. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is giving a reality check to everyone. Please conduct a thorough investigation of yourselves and please compare ourselves to what Bhagavatam is offering. So in other words, Bhagavatam is saying, if somebody sincerely performs devotional service by following the process given in the Srimad Bhagavatam under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, then these three things must happen. And Prabhupada in the purport, very nicely he mentions, we must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties. And if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. So Prabhupada has given even more clarity. Sometimes the Sanskrit verses of the Bhagavatam we may not be able to fully appreciate what the verses are saying. The language of the Vedic literature is like that. But Prabhupada has very clearly communicated that the basic principle of discharging devotional service are hearing and chanting, and if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema or love of God. And that means after this stage, signs of tears in the eyes and standing of hairs on the body, after this also there is some other stage. That is what Prabhupada is saying, perfectional stage. That means even this is not perfectional stage. Even if tears are coming in one's eyes and hairs are standing on end, Prabhupada is saying that is not perfectional stage. There is one more stage beyond that perfection, which is the perfectional stage, which is love of Godhead. And then further Prabhupada says, if the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered due to offenses only. So that also Prabhupada has very clearly given the reason, due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of hair on the end. So Prabhupada has given very clear verdict. Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki jai, Shri Krishna Balaram. So Prabhupada has given a very clear verdict. Prabhupada's communication is crystal clear that this process of hearing and chanting the name of the Lord is the basic principle of devotional service, and if they are properly performed, the reactional ecstasy will follow. What is that reactional ecstasy? Something vague, something hallucination? No, that also very clearly Prabhupada has communicated. Signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences. And this is also not perfectional stage. Beyond this, there is a perfectional stage of Krishna Prema. And not only that, if the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered due to offenses only. It's a very clear communication. Probably nobody can communicate spiritual subject matter more clearly than this. So, very clearly Prabhupada has told it is due to offenses only. And the 10 kinds of offenses, every day we are reading in the morning after our morning program during the Mangalarati time. So therefore, there is a constant struggle in the life of every sadhaka to avoid these 10 kinds of offenses. So there are 2 kinds of struggle. One is the struggle to positively do devotional service, to chant Hare Krishna, to read Bhagavatam, to attend the aratis and do other kinds of services. That is a struggle to do devotional service, but that is not sufficient. There is also the struggle of avoiding the offenses. So in both directions, every sadhaka is expected to have his own struggle. Then, after some time, whenever the Lord's will is there, somebody may be able to manifest these symptoms of tears in the eyes and standing of hairs on the body. So therefore, it is not sufficient to do devotional service according to this purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not enough if only somebody does devotional service, participates in devotional activities. He also has to continuously struggle to avoid the 10 kinds of offenses. That is also equally important. Now, why does a person commit offenses? Somebody may ask. What is the root cause? Actually, Arjuna asks this question in the Bhagavad Gita. Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha annichan api varshne baladiva niyojitaha. Arjuna asks, Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati. Why does a person commit sin? Papa, offense is also papa karma only. Papa does not only refer to meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex and gambling. That is very gross papa. Other subtle kinds of offenses, they also have to be categorized as papa karma. Why? Because they bring reaction in a negative way. So Arjuna is asking, Ata kena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha. Why does a person commit sin or why does a person commit offense? Annichan. There is no ichha. Sometimes he even doesn't desire to commit. Annichan. Api varshneya. Varshneya is another name for Krishna. Because Krishna appeared in Vrishni dynasty. Api varshneya. Baladiva niyojitaha. As if being balad, be pushed away by a force. It's a very specific question by Arjuna. It's a very important question actually in the Bhagavad Gita. And then Krishna replies, Kama yesha krodha yesha rajo guna samudbhavaha. The result is lust, kama. Krodha, anger. And where does these two come from? Rajo guna samudbhavaha. Samudbhava means it is coming out of rajo guna. Mahapapma. Krishna himself says, greatly sinful this is rajo guna. Mahapapma. Vidyena iha vairinam. Please know Arjuna, this is your eternal enemy. So such strong words Krishna has used. So ultimately, Krishna has given the verdict. The root cause of all that is lust only. Lust, as people understand in the outside world, as, some kind of strong attraction for the opposite sex. That is how people have conventional understanding of lust. But when the acharyas explain lust, when Prabhupada explains lust, it has a much broader meaning. The desire to enjoy independent of Krishna is actually defined as lust. It is actually defined as lust. Kama, the word for kama is lust. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjitaha. Symptom of a self-realized soul is Yasya sarve sama arambha. Arambha means anything he begins, anything he touches, it is kama sankalpa varjitaha. He makes no kama for personal sense gratification. This is the position of a pure devotee of the Lord. There is no kama sankalpa. Sankalpa means just like our donors come, we do a sankalpa, that we'll do this arati for you, we'll do this abhishekam for you. So Krishna is saying kama sankalpa. Kama sankalpa means somebody makes a determination, I will enjoy. That is actually lust. And a pure devotee is varjitaha, kama sankalpa varjita. He has no such desire. Why? Because his every act is done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That is the state of consciousness. So actually, the root cause of a person committing offenses is because of this very fundamental drive that every living entity in the material world has got, lust. And what is this lust at a very fundamental level? If one wants to know, this lust is a perverted reflection of love of Krishna. That is how Prabhupada defines in Bhagavad Gita in one place. Lust is a perverted reflection of love of Krishna. This constant drive to maximize one's enjoyment, gross and subtle, because we have a gross body, we have a subtle body. And we are Atma, that is what Bhagavad Gita says. Our identity is Atma, but we have a gross body and we have a subtle body. Gross body is this physical body, and subtle body is the mind, intelligence and false ego. So the constant drive to maximize the sense gratification and enjoyment of the gross body and subtle body is actually called lust. And this lust, Srila Prabhupada says, is a perverted reflection of love of God. Perverted reflection means in the original state of consciousness, in the purified state, every living entity has got a constant drive to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord, to always act, speak, think for Krishna's pleasure, for the pleasure of other devotees, for the pleasure of all living entities. Prabhupada says in one place, those who are pure devotees or self-realized, their lives are dedicated for the happiness of others. Their lives are dedicated for the happiness of others. So in the original state of existence, every living entity in the spiritual world actually, or even if that pure living entity is in the material world, like the Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada, constantly the living entity is striving hard for Krishna's satisfaction, for the glorification of Krishna, for the satisfaction of Krishna. This is pure state of existence. And all living entities who are not situated in this pure state of existence, who are part of this material creation up to Brahma, from the small living entity up to Brahma, Yastva Indragopa Madhavendra Mahosva Karma, Brahma Samhita says, Indragopa is one-celled insect. Up to Indra, up to the greatest personalities in this universe, everybody part of this material creation, they are after their gross and subtle sense gratification. The drive is to maximize the gross and subtle sense gratification. And this entire Varnashrama Dharma, or this Hindu religion, as we know, only regulates that gross and subtle sense gratification. It does not uproot that. This entire Hindu religion or Varnashrama Dharma as we know today, or as Indian culture, as people say, Vedic culture, it does not show us the path to uproot this desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. It only regulates that. Why regulate? So that your gross and subtle sense gratification does not disturb your neighbor's gross and subtle sense gratification. His gross and subtle sense gratification should not disturb somebody else's gross and subtle sense gratification. Therefore, some system of religion is there. But this is not enough. Always the tendency is to break free of the rules and regulations and enjoy unrestricted gross and subtle sense gratification is always there in the material world. Especially we are seeing this in Kali Yuga. How Indian culture is degrading day by day. Why? Because there is no motivation, there is no impetus. for the people of even who are born in Hindu families to follow all these rules and regulations and enjoy sense gratification in a restricted way. Doesn't make any sense to them. So therefore, you see, this kind of religious system is condemned by Srimad Bhagavatam as Kaitava Dharma. Bhagavatam says this is cheating religion. Why? The type of religious system is not helping us to uproot the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. It is only regulating it. How long will you regulate? How long will this regulation and restriction go on? Sooner or later, person will throw all these rules and regulations to the dustbin, and he will want to enjoy his gross and subtle sense gratification in an unrestricted way. That is how we are seeing in our previous generation. People would get married and live properly with husband, wife, children. And today people throw all that to the dustbin. They want live-in relationship. Why? That restriction, that rules and regulation, within this boundary, you can enjoy gross and subtle sense gratification, is no longer appealing. Therefore, live-in relationship. A new terminology has come up. How all these new and new words keep coming in the modern society, newer and terminologies. 25 years back when we were in college, nobody had heard of, there was no vocabulary called live-in relationship. Now it is all around us. Why it is there? Why? Because of this. Everybody in the material world, every living entity is situated in lust, constantly struggling hard to maximize his gross and subtle sense gratification. And therefore, because of that, whenever there is an attempt to maximize one's gross and subtle sense gratification, a person must commit offense sooner or later. He must commit offense. So even sadhakas, those who are executing devotional service or attempting to execute devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada is warning us, the Bhagavatam is warning us, that the deep-rooted desire for gross and subtle sense gratification is very much there. And whenever that gross and subtle sense gratification is not fulfilled, it is not satisfied, the result is a person becomes angry and he commits offense. Because offense is a direct result of somebody being dissatisfied. Only a dissatisfied person will commit offense. If person is fully satisfied and happy, why will he offend anyone? Krishna says, Tushyanti cha ramanti cha matchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam namasyantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. My devotees are always singing about me, glorifying me, remembering me. And this way, tushyanti cha ramanti cha, they are always experiencing happiness and satisfaction. So a person who is always experiencing happiness and satisfaction by remembering the Lord, by glorifying the Lord, why will he offend anyone? He will never offend anyone. Why? Because he can never be dissatisfied. There is nothing which can give him dissatisfaction. Why nothing can give him dissatisfaction? He is not attached to gross and subtle sense gratification. If somebody takes away his gross sense gratification, which is meant for him, he is not disturbed. If somebody takes away the recognition and credit and the subtle things meant for him, he is not disturbed. Why? His source of happiness is tushyanti cha ramanti cha, remembering the Lord, glorifying the Lord, chanting the name of the Lord, having darshan of the Lord, which is actually the state of a pure devotee of the Lord. Our own spiritual master is the best example. His entire life, his biography, his every walk, his every talk is an example of this. Zero subtle and gross sense gratification. Whatever Prabhupada was doing, absolutely Prabhupada never expected any kind of sense gratification for himself. So therefore, other than that, everybody else, sadhakas who are executing devotional service, they are advised to be careful. The tendency to commit offense is always there. And where does the tendency to commit offense come from? As Krishna says, kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajoguna samudvaha. Kama means desire for one's own enjoyment. So desire for one's own enjoyment is very deep-rooted. Why it is so deep-rooted? Somebody may ask. Because it is a perverted reflection of love of Krishna. Kama is an absence of love of Krishna. Prabhupada in one place explains Krishna consciousness very nicely. Krishna is like the sun and Maya is darkness. In the absence of sunshine, only Maya can exist, darkness can exist. Both darkness and sunshine cannot coexist together. And Prabhupada says, please try to understand Krishna consciousness by this example. So, in that sense, every living entity in the material world is not situated in pure devotional service. And because he is not situated in pure devotional service, he is after gross and subtle sense gratification. And because every living entity in the material world is after his own gross and subtle sense gratification, any moment there can be dissatisfaction in these two. Because you expect something, may happen, it may not happen. That uncertainty is always there in the material world. Because whatever gross and subtle sense gratification one gets, that is bound by one's previous karma. That is bound by one's previous karma. Karma is controlling. So I may desire 25 kilos of gross and subtle sense gratification for me. My karma allows only 500 grams. My karma allows only 500 grams of gross and subtle sense gratification. I may desire. Desire, what is there? Anybody can desire anything. Person sitting on the street also can desire, I will become Mukesh Ambani. His karma has to allow. So because of this, there is always a gap between what one desires and what gets in the material world. That gap is the law of karma. That gap is the law of karma. So because of that, tendency to commit offense is there. Because when one does not get what one desires, then the next thing is anger. Prabhupada says, anger is a direct result of when one's desire is not fulfilled. When one's desire is not fulfilled. Just like Daksha. Daksha is also a devotee of the Lord. He had organized a huge interplanetary sacrifice. He had called everybody from the universe. And when Daksha came inside, everybody got up and offered respect. One person did not get up, Lord Shiva. You see? So immediately Daksha got offended. Hey, I am his father-in-law. I am Daksha Prajapati. How dare he does not get up? And result of that is anger. Immediately he offended Lord Shiva and Parvati with his words. You see? Daksha is such a powerful person. He is a Prajapati. How many servants he will be having? How many people will be behind him with folded hands? How many times he would have enjoyed his glorification? People will come and clap in front of him and glorify him and offer everything. Practically, so much opulence. But still, has Daksha become fully satisfied? Tushyanti cha ramanti cha? No. Lord Shiva did not get up and Daksha is offended. Dissatisfaction has crept into the mind of Daksha. Why he did not offer me respect? How dare he sit? After all, he is my son-in-law. Brahma, okay. Brahma doesn't get up, I can understand. Brahma is the creator of the universe. But Shiva is my son-in-law, he should have got up. You see how Daksha got offended? Whereas a pure devotee of the Lord, one of the symptoms, as mentioned here in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada writes, Mana Shunyata. He does not have any expectation for honor, respect, dissatisfaction, nothing like that. Prabhupada, in one very nice instance, one devotee narrates this. Prabhupada had asked the devotees to organize one yajna for giving diksha. And when Prabhupada came, nothing was in order. Everything was unorganized. Nobody had arranged anything. And Prabhupada was so upset. And then he called one devotee and said, bring the fruits. And then that devotee brought cut fruits. That fruits were meant for keeping in the yajna, Mukunda. Prabhupada said, get the fruits. He brought cut fruits. Prabhupada was even more angry. And then when Prabhupada went, he went somewhere and he was just sitting. Nothing had happened. So somebody just walked into the temple who was coming to the temple for a few weeks or months. And somebody had told him, if you are disturbed, you chant one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So this person went to Prabhupada and told, looks like you are disturbed, I'll give you a solution. There is one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Please chant this mantra. So you can imagine how Prabhupada would have reacted. Anybody else, how he would have reacted. So you know who I am? I am the founder Acharya of this ISKCON. Prabhupada humbly took that mala and started chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You see? So you can see Daksha also is a devotee of the Lord. He's a devotee of Lord Vishnu. He's a great personality, no doubt. He's one of the Prajapatis. But still, Daksha is not counted as a pure devotee because the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification is still there. And as long it is there, a person has a tendency to commit offense. Because Daksha is feeling the pain. Daksha is used to enjoying respect every moment, everywhere where he goes. So in his mind, Daksha has fixed, these are the persons who have to respect me. These are the persons who are above me. I have to respect them. So Daksha has made a clear calculation. So in that, Lord Shiva fits very clearly under the category of who is supposed to respect me. So what is due to me has not come. I am father-in-law and he is son-in-law. How dare he disrespect me? Result was offense. So as long as a person, we are having any desire for gross and subtle sense gratification, there will be dissatisfaction. There will be dissatisfaction because we take pleasure from that. Daksha was taking pleasure from receiving respect. So when he did not receive respect, his pleasure is taken away, his happiness is taken away. So therefore anger. So therefore, as long as a person is running behind gross and subtle sense gratification, tendency to become unhappy and dissatisfied is very much there. And the result of that, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Kama yesha, Krodha yesha, Rajoguna samudbhava, a person will end up committing offense. And what will be the result of that offense? Result of that offense is these two things which are mentioned, Netre, Jalam, Gatra, Ruheshu, Harshaha. There will be no tears falling from his eyes and the hairs will not stand on end. Because of that offense, some reaction will come. We see that many places in the Bhagavatam. Those who are great personalities also, but not counted among the pure devotees. Somewhere you will always find the result of that offense will be, the reason for that offense will be something like this. Whereas a pure devotee of the Lord, like Narada Muni or Srila Prabhupada for that matter, they are completely devoid of any tinge of desire for gross or subtle sense gratification. Every moment they are taking pleasure. Namagane sada ruchi. The ruchi is always for Namagane sada ruchi. Pritistad vasatistale. Always remembering Krishna, always chanting Krishna's name. So therefore, such a person, he has no desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. Therefore, there is no question of committing offense. So even when Prabhupada used very hard words, like fools, rascals and all kinds of words, there was no personal enmity or animosity in the mind of Prabhupada, because he is fully satisfied by chanting Krishna's name. Out of compassion, so that they may also be elevated to the position of pure devotional service, Prabhupada used such kind of strong language. So that we need to remember. So that is how Srimad Bhagavatam is giving its verdict, that the process of devotional service is perfect. There is absolutely no question of any fault in the process. And if a person's heart does not change because of this continuous chanting and hearing, the person whose heart has not changed, the only reason is because of offenses, and offenses are committed because of this gross and subtle sense gratification. In one place, Prabhupada says, person commits offenses because of identifying with the body. Identifying the body means gross and subtle body. So therefore, there is a constant struggle in the lives of all sadhakas to give up gross and subtle sense gratification. Especially in the lives of sadhakas, or who are practicing devotional service, gross sense gratification may be more or less given up, but the desire for subtle sense gratification may actually lead to offenses. So therefore, this whole warning is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada is also mentioning that on one hand, there is a struggle to execute devotional service. On the other hand, there must be a constant struggle to give up subtle sense gratification, especially subtle sense gratification. Then one's consciousness will become pure and he will feel happiness and satisfaction only by the name, form, qualities and activities of the Lord. That will be his only source of happiness and satisfaction. And a person whose life, whose consciousness, his only source of happiness and satisfaction is chanting and remembering the name of the Lord, glorifying the Lord, he will definitely not commit offense, because he will never take offense. Daksha unnecessarily took offense. Daksha could have just brushed off that whole incident. Yeah, after all, Lord Shiva is a very great personality. So what if one person didn't respect me? Daksha could have brushed off that whole situation and he could have just focused on his yajna. But no, Daksha took offense. That how dare Lord Shiva disrespect me? I am the Prajapati here. And after all, he is my son-in-law. So you see, a person who is not actually able to take pleasure from chanting, hearing the name of the Lord, reading Srimad Bhagavatam and the name, form, qualities and activities of the Lord, who is not experiencing happiness and satisfaction out of the name, form, qualities and activities of the Lord, there is always a chance that he will take offense. He will take offense even when there is no offense. Lord Shiva did not go and throw a shoe on the face of Daksha. He was simply sitting silently. He didn't do anything. Daksha took offense because Shiva did not get up. You see? So, this is because of this only. On the other hand, a pure devotee of the Lord who is always absorbed in chanting the name of the Lord, reading the glories of the Lord, doing some form of service of the Lord, if these are his sources of satisfaction, he will neither take offense, and because he will never take offense, he will never commit offense also. Had Daksha not taken offense from Lord Shiva, he would not have committed that offense also. So this is the position of the pure devotees of the Lord, and of course, persons like Daksha are counted among the devotees, definitely, but not yet pure. So, as sadhakas, as people who are practicing devotional service, we also come under the category of Daksha. So, there is always a tendency of taking offense when our gross and subtle sense gratification is not met. So, therefore, if we take inspiration from Srila Prabhupada's wonderful Leela, that even when somebody came and told him, you chant Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada humbly took the mala from his hand and he started chanting. So that is the glory of our spiritual master, and if we take inspiration from his life, then we will also be able to give up all kinds of gross and subtle sense gratification. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.